Welcome to this video, Between the Sheets, Excellent since 2000, with me, Duncan Williamson. In this video, we'll be talking about the database functions in Excel. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, some of our Excel famous have started waxing lyrical about Excel's database functions. One called them forgotten functions, I think, and another called the DGET function a hidden function. Well, that's tosh. What has happened over the years is that I've been presenting them in my written work and in many of my courses, but other Excel users have dismissed them as rubbish, too complicated, out of date, and so on. The reality is that the database functions really can be the ideal solution to a problem. And let me start by comparing 3 solutions to the same problem and ask yourself, which do you prefer? Which do your colleagues prefer? First of all, using sum product, and there it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. Sum ifs, same problem, sum if solution, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 elements. DSUM, 1, 2, 3 elements. Now, I will illustrate how I got to those formulas shortly, but they're real. And if we carried on with the example, the sum product and the sum if formulas would just get bigger and bigger. Yet the DSUM function would stay the same essentially. Just for reference, this is the listing of all the database functions in my version of Excel 365. And there we are, DAVERAGE. I like to call that DAVERAGE, by the way. DCount, DCount A, all the way down to DVARP. Variance of a population, and there's a description of them and the syntax. So I'm only going to demonstrate 3 of these, but you've got enough information to learn from what I'm doing and then replicate those with all of the other database functions as you wish. So that means we can use these functions to find averages, to count values, to count non-empty cells, maxima, minima, and so on. And they all work in a similar way to each other. And to illustrate that, let's look at just 3 of those functions. Actually, D gets a little bit different from the other 2. So what do the database functions do? Well, as we demonstrate those 3 database functions, we'll be answering the question of what the database functions do. And you'll see in the DAVERAGE section, the data that we're going to use, the data that we are working on for all of the examples in this video. DAVERAGE or DAVERAGE. The syntax of the DAVERAGE function is DAVERAGE, database, field, and criteria, where the database is the range or array of the database we're working on. In this case, you can see on the right-hand side, very small database, A5 to E23. The field is the field or column of data of interest. In this case, that's total sales. So the column header is total sales. That cell reference for the header is E5, and it's in column 5. So we might use column 5, as you'll see, for the field name. And the criteria is a table that tells DAVERAGE what it is that we want to evaluate. And I'll show you that in a second. The criteria table isn't on this slide. In cell B40 of that worksheet, the DAVERAGE formula is, as you can see there, and it gives the answer of 66082.5. And that is, in this first example, I asked DAVERAGE to find all of the total sales for all Apple products. And one by one, that means add together 85106, 21910, and so on. Hence, then divide that by 6 since we're working on the average, and that gives you 66082.5. Now, notice a couple of things. For the field parameter, I simply used the instruction address E5, the reference of the total cell for the total sales column, the header cell. I could have entered total sales, the full string of total sales, the header, instead of that, or even just number 5. I pointed out that the total sales column is column 5 for this reason. I could simply type 5 there, representing column 5 of the database. And all 3 of those examples, all 3 of those options are equally valid. This is another criteria range. It's very similar to the one we've just been looking at. So this for you to try example should be simple to set up, understand, and evaluate. So rather than apples, we're looking at oranges. Rather than Atlanta, we're looking at Blue Ridge. And rather than Fruit-A-Rose, we're looking at mountain fruit. The DGET function is a bit different because it extracts a single value from a column of a list or database that matches conditions that you specify. The syntax of the DGET function is database, field, criteria. Aha, database, range, field, criteria. Notice now, in this example, I've added a new row to the criteria table. I entered the following, and then I entered the following, B44 equals DGET, and it gave me the result of num, a number error. Why? Because the specification I'm just talking about there returns more than one value. And if we change the formula to this, the formula in B44, we get 149745. And I'm sure you can work out why that's the right answer. One single solution. And try this then. Change the criteria table to identify the single total sales value of your choice by changing the criteria range in any way that you wish, making sure that DGET only returns a single value. The DSUM function. Now, I am sure that you've seen these database functions easy to work with, and they are user-friendly to construct. And DSUM will provide us with the total sales, in this case, of the choices we make in the criteria table. And again, we can make any changes we like to any part of this exercise. The syntax of DSUM is database or range, field, criteria. Very simple. You've learned it already. Now we want to find the sales of all oranges when the sales in the total sales column are greater than 69,000 and less than 100,000. So in that second row, we put oranges. We don't specify a region. We're agnostic about region, but the sales have to be between 69,000 and 100,000. There's the formula. Try it, test it. You can download my Excel file, and you should find the answer of 254723. For you to try this now, where we nominate the region to be mid-Georgia, mid-GA, and make sure you can agree with the total sales under those conditions to be 71097. And again, I'll put the box in there. Again, change the criteria range by making sure that DSUM returns the total value of 71097. But change those in any way you like. I don't show here the region to be mid-GA, so you need to add that to make this DSUM function agree with the figure I've got there. Conclusion so far? Well, I'm pretty sure you can see the benefit of using these database functions, and the final formula in every case, the formula itself, is very simple to appreciate. The criteria table is very simple to set up and apply, with a bit of practice, I have to confess. So let's see when the sum product and the sum if functions are really so problematic. Now, I'm not explaining these in full, but I'm giving you the answer there. I'm showing you everything. There's a database again. There's a criteria table, which we don't need for sum product. And here's the sum product formula in cell K29, where I'm asking it simply to choose the product and tell me the answer, the sum of the product for apples. The other sum product formulas that you'll see in K30, 31, 32, and this is why I'm illustrating sum product, because the more variables or parameters we include, the longer and longer the sum product function is, and therefore the more difficult it is to construct and read and understand. And you can see the values in the screenshot that you need to agree with. You can see how and why the formula expands as we ask more and more of it. Sum ifs, again, I won't work through the formulas here, but you can download my Excel file and check them. But here they are. And notice again, 1 parameter, 2 parameters, 3, 4, and the sum ifs function expands to work on those. And if you add a 5th, 6th, 7th parameter, you know what's going to happen. So you can appreciate the potential complexities of working with a larger database and more combinations of parameters, and the database functions, they do adapt very well to the circumstances of an interrogation, but sum product and sum ifs, in my opinion, don't. While the database functions in Excel, such as DSUM, DGET, and DAVERAGE, can be powerful for working with structured data, there are several arguments against using them. Now, given what I've said so far, you'll appreciate that I don't agree with all of the arguments against the use of database functions that you're going to see in the slides that follow. However, there are some valid points here, no doubt. This is the list. Some people say these things against using database functions. Complexity of setup, I don't think that's true, but it is for some. It is when you're first learning. Lack of flexibility, I don't agree with that. Not intuitive, maybe true. With practice, less true. Compatibility, true. Less transparent, maybe true. Performance issues, only with a very large database. And alternatives. On the next 7 slides, which I'm going to refer to very quickly, the full arguments to do with complexity. Pause the video. Lack of flexibility. Again, pause the video. I don't agree with that. Steep learning curve. I don't think it is. I don't agree with cross-platform challenges, because if you want to use Google Sheets, that's up to you. Backwards compatibility. Yeah, I get that. And we used to suffer that, but now who has Excel 2007, 2013? Who uses that? Very, very few of you. It's not a serious problem. Don't agree with that. Readability. Yeah, I can't argue with them. I don't agree with what it says there about sum ifs and average ifs. I do like the filter function, as you know if you've seen any of my other videos. I think it's a magical function. I agree with that. Power query, pivot tables for advanced users. Yeah, that may be a valid argument. Well, that really is why I often recommend the database functions as the best way to solve problems involving the interrogation of multiple columns, multiple variables, or parameters. However, there are criticisms I do agree with and those that I don't. So you make up your own mind as to which functions you prefer to work with and which you don't. Well, there you are. Between the Sheets, excellent since 2000, with me, Duncan Williamson, the database functions in Excel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.